this week we're weaving. I wanted to do something for Earth Day because it's Earth Day this week. So I searched around my backyard for a stick that I could weave onto, and I was specifically looking for one that had like a Y shape on it. And I found one that had multiple Y shapes on it, so I was really excited. So I made an example for you. I did some really cool kind of like woven piece up here in this Y with a figure 8 weave. And then on this one, I have a double weave, so it's a different weave on this side than it is on this. And it's like almost like a little pocket, like you could store like stuff in there. It's like a little secret pocket. So this was a really kind of cool piece that I created, and I want to show you how you can do one similar. So here we go. First, you need to find a stick with lots of Y shapes in it, and it's a good sturdy stick. If it's tiny little sticks like this in a Y, it's not going to be very easy, and they're going to break from the tension of the warp on the branch. So I recommend like a really sturdy stick. Go for a walk and try to find some laying around. So this is in a big tangled mess right now. This was a scrap that I had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind it on another stick or whatever I can to make it a little bit more manageable as I warp my loom. So I'm going to show you how I do that. You can use like just this kind of regular twine. You can use garden twine. You can use anything, string like that's about this thick. You can even use just regular yarn to warp your loom. But this is what I had on hand because I had a bunch of kids using it already this year. So this is much more manageable when I wrap it around a stick. You could wrap it around anything that you have that kind of could hold up to string like this. Okay, so the first step to warping my loom is I take the end of my yarn, I'm going to unravel it just a bit so I have some to work with, and I'm going to tie it at the base of my Y. I'm going to make a double knot at the bottom, just like a knot, a regular knot. I want it to be pretty tight if I can. And if I'm worried about it slipping, just give it a pull. Double knot should be enough, but if you wanted to make it extra strong, you could do another one. So I'm going to show you how to do this one's a double weave. I'm going to show you a couple different kinds of weaves on this one, but this one's a double weave. So I start like with my string tied around my base like that. Then I'm going to come around and wrap it all the way around my branch. Once I've done that, I'm going to put my finger here to hold it in place because it really slips around if you're not careful. I want it pretty tight so it'll hold the tension. If you have a little knot in your tree, you can hook it over like so. And you want them pretty straight across from each other in a straight line. You don't really want it at an angle too much. Then I'm going to come over on this side and I'm going to wrap it around and over. I'm going to continue like this around my branch. Okay, so once I've got it to this point, I've come to this side, and this is where I want to tie it off. So I'm going to wrap it around a couple times to make it really, really sturdy. And then I've got this that's the end of this string. Wow, that worked out perfectly. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to tie it to itself up here. Okay, one knot and double knot. This one I might even do triple because I really want it to hold. There we go. So if you see, this one is a double weave. So I'm going to weave 2 different patterns on each side of my branch. So I have a bunch of scraps. I know that I want to do quite a bit of yellow. So my yellow will go probably about that far with this piece of string, maybe a little bit more like that. I kind of do this to eyeball like how much yarn I want to do. So I think I'm going to do a little bit more yellow. I'm going to go ahead and tie 2 strings together already just to make it extra long. To do that, I'm just going to do an overhead knot like this, around and through. And I'm going to make it real tight, pull it a little bit, not too hard like I'm going to rip the string, and then I'm going to come in and snip the tail there so it's not too long and the strings aren't too messy. Okay, so I have my long piece of yellow like that to start. I've got a bunch of other colors that I might use after. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to trim these strings as well, just so I'm not accidentally like weaving them into the colors. This one I don't really have a plan. I'm just kind of going to go random colors as I go. Nice thing about weaving is that you can use a lot of different scraps and you can use different textures of yarn. I love this one. It's so soft and fluffy. I used it in a different weaving to make kind of like flower petals, but adding different textures in will add so much interest to your piece of art. All right, so I'm going to start weaving in my weft, the stuff that I weave, the yarn that I weave into the warp thread is called the weft. If you happen to have a large needle like this, an upholstery needle or a tapestry needles have little hooks on the ends of them. You can use your needle. I'll probably use that a bit in later on in my weaving, but for now I'll show you how to do it without, because a lot of us probably don't even have one of those at home. So I'm going to start on one side. Okay, we're going to do a different weaving on this side. We're going to start on this side. I'm just going to do random stripes of color on this one. So to start, I'm going to take my long thread and I'm going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over with my pattern. It doesn't really matter if you start on top or underneath, but maybe I'll start on underneath. I'll go under this string, over the next one, under this string, can you see that? Over this one, under this one, over that one, and then when I get to the bottom, I'm going to go under and loop it back. Then I'm going to pull, whoops, I'm going to pull my string until I have probably about a couple inches of the string left on the end here. We can weave that back into our piece later. Then I'm going to go back up this way because I'm just going to do some stripes on this one. So this one goes under here. I'm going to use that same string. I'm going to go over that string. So over, under this one, over this one, under, over, under, over. And pull it tight. You don't want to pull it too tight because if I pull it really tight, I'm going to pull the strings and it's going to mess with my warp. So I just want the tension tight enough to hold, but not too tight that it'll bend my warp. So this one's over. I'm going to go back, under, over, under, over, under, over, and under, and pull it down. To change colors, it's super easy. You know how I tied those 2 yellows together? I'm just going to do the same with these 2 colors. I am going to make an overhand knot, pull the ends through and make it quite tight. Okay, and then I can trim those ends. I want to make sure it's tight before I trim it, or else they'll just come apart and I'll have to tie it again. So, if you saw in the sped up version, my time lapse, I had the little connector one where I connected both of the yellow, you'll see it in there, the little tails down in here. I just tucked them on the inside so you won't see them. So I'm just going to do that with these ones too. When I get to the part, I'm just going to flip it to the inside so you're not going to see. All right, and I just do the same. So this one is considered over, so I'm going to come under that same thread. Then I'm going to go, so I went under, over this one, under this one, over this one, under, over, under. When I get to the bottom, that guy's under, so I go over the same thread. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. So I got this little tail here. I'm just gonna flip it to the inside, and you won't even see it as I keep going. How I wanted this to look as I went along. I found all my scrap pieces of wool. I even found this really beautiful big chunky wool that I had, and you can tell that when it's fluffier it covers up that warp thread a little bit more, so you can't quite see the white through there. You can fluff it up and it'll cover it up. I really think that this is beautiful. I think it's kind of like prairies, water, and then sky with clouds. That's kind of how I picture this. Last step is just to tidy up these little ends. To do that, this first end, you could do this at the beginning or you could do it at the end. You're just going to take it and weave it back. So this one is going over, then you're going to go under, pull it down, over this one. So you can see that on the bottom I pulled my threads quite tight, and these ones became loose as I worked. So it's really important to get these warp threads on there tightly at the beginning and not pull these ones too tight if you're weft. But I think that's pretty cool. Now I can go in and do a different pattern on this side, because remember I did not do a figure 8 one on this one, so you can see all the way down. So you have two sides you can weave on, which is kind of cool that you have like a weave pattern on this side and a weave pattern on this side.